I am Go Via Go Home, and I'd like to welcome you back to my layout. We're here at my modules, just hanging out. Today I thought I'd talk about how I'm actually going to be forming the land here for these modules, where I'm getting my inspiration from, maybe a few tips that maybe you can use. We're also going to talk wiring, because I've got the wiring set up for these now, and I'm going to show you how I'm putting my track on as well. Maybe by the end of it, we might even see this one running. So let's take a look, and I'll show you what I've done this far.
Okay, so as you can see here, basically the 2x4 section of foam that was on top of this, I had cut it at the 9-inch mark, right down basically the middle. Well, not the middle, it's the 9-inch mark, but then I had cut at the corners so that fits snug right in there. Kind of helps square things off as well. But I'm gluing it down now. I use Lepage, No More Nails projects. It's the stuff I've always used. I feel like it holds the best, and it'll hold to wood, foam. It doesn't deteriorate the foam at all, and it works. It has a very strong hold to it, especially if you're doing foam to foam. There's no way you're getting that apart. Trust me, I know. So I've also made a few little pieces here just to support, because this section here is going to be higher, but I didn't want to go out and buy more foam or even thicker foam. So I basically cut strips to go on there, and then that's going to support the bigger piece that's going to go on the front here. That's going to be level. That's where the tracks are going to be. So once this dries, I'll be able to pop that on there, and I'll show you the somewhat finished foam part of this. Okay, so we're just going to take a look at how I plan on doing the whole scenery for my Ajax module. When we go to Google, because Google is the most popular, we type in Ajax, Ontario, and you'll see it. It's kind of outlined in red here. It's good, not a very big portion there, but we're going to kind of zoom in a bit here. Because it just goes along the highway, so I'm just gonna zoom in a bit more. And then it actually says Ajax Go Station. See? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drag my little dude here, right down to the highway. We're going to go into a bit of a 3D mode, which is kind of neat. And then I'm just going to go down the street a little bit here. Thanks, Java. That's what happens when you never turn on your computer. Okay. So now this is what I was referring to before in the other part of the video here. See this wall here? That's a concrete wall, and the road here, this highway, it's just where the cars get off the highway, and it'll go down and it'll eventually get to just a 4-way street there. But this wall here is the front of the module, and when we take a look, we've got a bit of a grass gap that slopes downward, and it starts really thick here. It's much wider here, and then when we go down this way, the wall gets much higher, And the grass gap here, it's not on as big of a slope, really, right? So this will be represented on the front of the module. Now, when we go to take a look here, because I want to show you this as well, we're zooming out, zoom out again, and then it goes into almost like a bird's eye view, which is really neat. So then I can drag this down. You can see the whole terminal here, the platforms that are covered. You've got the one set of tracks here. This is the grass gap that I was referring to. So that will be there. And then the first set of tracks, second set of tracks. And then as I go back here a bit more, you're going to see this big parking garage, right, which will be represented on module that I've been working on there, but because there's two, splitting it right down the middle here, because we've got the train station and then there's also a bus terminal. Not sure how much of that bus terminal I'm actually going to get in, because I do have to add 2 CN lines, a bit of a grass gap here, and then the buildings, right? So these are probably going to be backdrop buildings. I won't be able to get the parking garage in, but I'll see how much I can actually get in, and hopefully maybe I can change it just a little bit so that it all fits on the 2 modules. But yeah, from what I was looking at here, it's the 2 CN lines, the station platform, and then there's a golf course right next to it. So if I really want to, on one of my corner modules, because this is right at the end, I can actually put somewhat of a representation of a golf course, but separated obviously by a bunch of trees, which would be most likely the corner of the module or the edge. And then I can do the placement here. So that would be neat to have a little bit of a golf course. Both my father and I do go golfing often, so I think he would be quite intrigued to see that there's a bit of a golf course on the layout as well. So that'd be really neat. And I think Woodland Scenics does little figures, little golf figures, so I can definitely make little people playing a couple of rounds. Also, just to the left of the station here, there's a bit of an underpass. That is something that I will take into consideration, but I might skip that for now. It goes right into industry here, so it looks like it turns in the 2 lane, or the 2 tracks here turn into 1, or sorry, turn into 4, and one of those starts to head, I guess that would be east. Not sure if I'll be adding this to it yet, because that's a little bit ways into the future. But I know that with all these buildings here, like I don't know what half these are, but that's basically Station Street there. And there's like there's a U-Haul from Packing Systems, and there's a neat building here. It's mostly black with the bright green doors on it. That's really neat. It's something I can definitely do a backdrop building for. It's just a warehouse. Most of these are just warehouses with a parking lot going around it. Looks like a bunch of containers. Nothing really to drop off though. I don't think they're receiving much from the rail system here. So I might have to somehow incorporate it. And then we've got like this big overpass, and then we've got so that looks like it's a 4 lanes, so 2 going one way, 2 going the other. So neat. It seems that there's a fair amount of distance between the 2 GO transit lines here, or the Via Rail lines, and then the CN lines. They really like to keep that separate. But I know eventually, if you keep following it down, eventually these 2 lines here will go into the CN, because Via Rail goes through here as well, and they don't really go through the CN side, but they will exit to the CN side so that they can go north. Another overpass huge parking lot. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But when I really break it down as to what I want to do and where I want to have it, because I'm gonna have to the left of these two modules here, which is kind of the way I'm going, there's gonna be a 3 foot and then another 8 feet, so two 4-foot modules. And I've got lots to choose from here as far as scenery. You could do it where there's like a basic road behind. Looks like there's a container parking lot here with tractor trailers. I'm not huge into intermodal, but that would be something to consider. It gives me the option for that, because this is supposed to be just you know, yeah, so I just wanted to show you this is how I get my ideas, as for how I am getting my ideas for the scenery here, in regards to the new modules. All right, so after figuring out where all the cork and the tracks are going to go here, because I've made my marks, they're all lining up here. That's where the number 8 switch is going to go. It's going to go up to there, and then the station. I measured about 11 inches, no, sorry, 9 inches from back edge out this way. Give me a fair amount here. Then I cut, as you can see, it's about an inch lower here. Also, to complete that, I used, this is the piece that's right in here, as you can see. I put that on the foam, I traced it and then cut it out in this corner and in that corner, so that way it'll go right down flat with these pieces that are underneath. So I gotta just do the front here, measure that out, and then I'll be able to cut the front as well. But other than that, it looks good so far. So I've got my section where my train's gonna go, and a section where buildings are gonna go. And then I just gotta basically form them together. But buildings will most likely come after. I'm just gonna, do as much as I can here with the track and whatnot. Try to get, power to the track and trains running. But yeah, other than that, it looks good. So I'm just going to show you here. I use the all-purpose sheetrock for this. I taped it off, and I put the you can see the tape line still because it's still wet. I just did it, and I just take the tape off so that way it can kind of smooth into it, basically. And then I'll sand that down. It looks a little rough right now, but once you sand it down, it does look like this after. This one hasn't been dusted off yet, but basically when I go to do this, I'm just going to paint it brown. But depending on how I do the ground cover for there, I'm going to try a couple of things, see what works best. But that's basically going to be the front of the module there. I had to move the track out of the way. I'll put that back, so it will basically look like that. Alright, so I'm just going to walk you through what I do for wiring here. Now, typically, each module is going to be set up the exact same. It all depends on how many tracks that you have per module. So basically, I use a lot of these terminal strips here. They're usually a lot bigger. And, I jump the wire. There's enough for positive and negative. And they're all on the underside, so that I connect the wires here at this end, here at that end, right? And then I've got my main bus running right through, connecting to each one. Now, when it comes to a section like this where I've got two modules that join together, which is basically at the end of each one of these, I ordered a bunch of these from China, and what it is, it's a male-female connector. It's already comes pre-wired like this, and it's fairly easy to plug and unplug, right? You've got your colored wire, the black and the red, so your positive and your negative. And basically I attach the male on this side, female, I wired it to this side, and then it feeds through the little hole in the middle, and the rest is history. So I'm going to be doing that all the way around, just to make this connection a lot easier. But for the actual wiring itself, I'll show you down here, because I do this before I even put my cork down. So as you can see here, I've got the screws laid in, right? The center line is where the center of my track is. So I mark out the distance of a rail and another rail. As you can see, this one here is just sitting on those two screws. That's because I'm going to solder the track to the screw, but that'll be the last thing I do. So basically, I pre-drill a hole, I put the screw in, making sure it's a good distance apart. I do the same thing on the opposite side, because the rail is going to come across, and we want to make sure that the screws are the same height all the way across. And then basically make sure, check for level and all that. Then I drill a little hole, I'll show you on this one here. I drill a little hole right on the foam here, right through, and then I feed my wire, my bus wire, which is what I use for my bus wire. I feed it through the hole, and then I wrap a positive and a negative around the two screws, and on the opposite it'll be positive, negative, right? So the positives are on this side, and negatives are on the back side. And then it feeds through, and then goes to the terminal strip, right? And then I've got all my positives together, they're all linked, and then all my negatives are together, and then that wire runs from the terminal strip down to the other end there. So I'll just show you, I wonder if we can see this here on the underside, because this one's already done. There you go. So right here we have, let's see if I can, so all my red and white wire. Then I've got black, because the black and the white goes together, and the red goes together. And then I've got, that's my connector there. So once I have a wire on the other side, that'll go through the hole just like that and connect to the other side. Then I've got my bus wire that's right here. It goes up, over, and all the way to the other side here, which will basically be the exact same thing, just the opposite side. And that's all the wiring I have right now as for, you know, track power, but that's how I add it. And it's all neat, it's at the ends, right by the screws, and there's nothing hanging down in the middle, because I even have this piece here, the bus wire is tucked up there, so that's not coming down, nothing's gonna get yanked or pulled at all. So as you can see there, because I haven't put the cork down yet, you've got the two wires, the white is the farthest one and the red is the closest one. I've soldered it right to the screw, right? So that won't come off of there. It's wrapped around it and it's soldered right to it. I've still got my center line. These aren't split yet, but just to give you the idea or the look, basically you glue it right down, right up against it, just like that. And all of a sudden those wires, you don't really see them anymore. You don't see the hole, and there's no connection here yet, you know, because you want to make sure that this splits right down the middle, right? And then eventually we'll add the track just like that, and then they'll bridge across. You can still make the adjustments too to this, like where you loosen it or tighten it if you need to afterwards. But yeah, it's really coming together. Got another one that's done there, so I'll have to glue that one down as well, so that we can continue on this line here. But I did that basically all here. You can see all the little screws sticking up, and then all the way down at this end. Now I didn't do the wiring for this yet because I still need the foam. And I also did down here. This isn't the piece of foam I'm using for this, but I want to make sure that all my screws were level, and then all my screws are level here as well. So I can now add my cork for the back there, and I just keep going along and keep doing the same thing. No matter how it's set up in the middle, as long as you've got your screws at the ends, even on a turn like this one here. So I mean, that module's in the way, but let's say if this is the edge here, so you have the edge that it's turning into, which is basically that back corner there. Put the screws in, and then when you run your track, you just curve it right to it. So that should work, and I've already tried. Basically, I put power to the track here. The track was just sitting on there, and I think I had some alligator clips holding it down, and I was able to run that locomotive there no problem, and that's just from like 3 feet here. It's not connected at both ends, so it'll be a very consistent power coming from both ends here, which should really give it enough juice to run all the way around. Okay, so I had to take the modules down just so I can do a bit of painting today. Because all the cork is down and they are wired, I thought I'd go ahead and give it a nice coat of paint. I used this camo brown spray, which I do believe, like, I feel like it eats at the styrofoam a little bit, but it should be okay. Once I cover this area here, you won't even notice it really. But yeah, it darkens up the actual cork there, so I can lay the track on it. Just put a little piece of tape on each top of these screws so that I can solder the connection, and there'll still be the connectivity there. I'll do the same with this one here, so they do match. That was all the painting I did with those. I still have my other module here, my big one. That's all glued down, and I did cut the front of this on an angle. Same thing with the side, so you can kind of see it there. So now I gotta make sure that those are at the right height, and I have to make sure those screws are at the right height. Then I can wire them, and then add the cork lines here. And then that's going to be the area where there's going to be a golf course, or part of a golf course. So that should be fun to work on. And I'm obviously going to have to bring the land down a bit here, just so it's level with this. So they're just going to sit up against it, and then we're just going to solder it on the outside.
Tracks are flat up against that, so that's good. It's still